Welcome to All Consuming Podcast. I'm Gary.
And I'm Tyler.
We're going to cover a band that has been requested by a few people. The band is For Today. And we've always been wanting to do it.
Yes.
And we've just kind of been delaying it because we knew it would be so fun.
For sure.
Like, why do all the fun episodes first? Today we're going to talk about Breaker. But, I mean, when I first heard these guys, I remember hearing them like when Maddie Montgomery had dreadlocks.
Oh, yeah. That's their first album. You hated them then.
Yeah, I just didn't get into them.
I vividly remember, Gary, I showed you their music video, Agape. They're in like this high school, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this band is so sick. Listen to it. And you're like, nah. Lame. You're like, what's with their guitars? And it just wasn't, it just didn't fit for you. That is actually the riff. You don't realize that is the riff from Agape.
Ecclesia. Oh, is it Agape? At that time, I think I was like into like Oh Sleeper and like more of the, As I Lay Dying type metalcore.
And then they came out with Portraits and you started getting on board. And then I remember when Breaker came out, you were like, this is a jam and we're going to play this all the time.
Yeah. So my first time hearing Breaker, I wasn't looking forward to it.
Right.
So I got married August 21st. Breaker came out like August 31st. So my wife and I just moved into our first married dorms, which was like across the parking lot from Tyler and his wife, Crystal.
I could see you through my window underground. I had like an underground apartment just full of spiders and mice, and you had a nice apartment, except for the weird bathroom thing.
Yeah, the sliding door that's like shared with the bedroom.
So if we're over at Gary's playing Xbox or just hanging out watching TV, we had to go to the bathroom. You had to go through his bedroom to get to the bathroom. And so maybe his wife was like sleeping or whatever, or she was in her room.
It's and go pee outside, guys. Don't wake up, Jen.
We're not going to go through your room to go to the bathroom. We're going to hold it. We're going to go outside. Yeah, exactly. It was weird.
I remember that morning that you showed me the album because like you were texting me or something. And I remember you like went to Best Buy or something.
Yeah.
And you bought it and you brought it over. And you're like, at least rip it. Like, put it on your computer, listen to it. And I'm like, all right. And I remember putting it in and listening to the first song, which is like a poem thing. And then Devastator came on, and I was like, okay, all right. I can listen to this. You have my
attention.
Like, yeah, and from then on, like, yeah, I don't know what my deal was with not liking them before. But that's definitely the album that hooked me. Yeah. And it wasn't even a first time through where you're like, I mean, it's good. It could grow on me. This was like first time through, like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to music.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I remember like being so excited for this release because I was like really into Portraits when it came out. I think they released like, it was like album straight, like every year they released an album. I might be wrong, but I thought it was like 2008, 2009, 2010.
I just looked it up. You're right. That is it.
I am right. Let's go. And so I remember like Portraits came out. And it was, less than a year later, they were talking about how they're releasing Breaker, and I was so stoked. Because Portraits, like Saul of Tarsus, like was my jam. And the whole album was awesome. And when Breaker came out, like you said, I went to the store, bought it, ran over to your apartment. Gary, come check this out.
Wake up.
I gave it right to you. Yeah, and so, like, I felt like a kid on Christmas, like, getting this because I knew it was going to be pretty awesome.
So before we get into talking about the whole album,
yes,
I thought I would go through some details.
Oh, you have details?
I'd have deets. I'm going to bring up the band lineup because it's changed quite a bit. So lead singer is Maddie Montgomery. Everybody knows him.
Oh, yeah.
Rhythm guitar is Mike Reynolds. David Morrison is drums. Brandon Lettrue, I hope I'm saying his name right, is bass player. And his brother, Ryan, is more involved in modern music. I mean, modern as in not 2010, than I thought. A lot of people know of the band Nothing Left. So
yeah.
the brothers, Ryan and Brandon, created that band out of For Today when they split with some people from Silent Planet and A Bullet for Pretty Boy.
Interesting.
The other thing that I never knew, so Wolves at the Gate made this like reprise album that's like acoustic of like 5 of their songs. And it's an amazing album. I love their acoustic stuff. On one of them, it said, featuring Ryan LeTrue, and I never connected the dots. And it's, the clean vocalist / lead guitar from For Today singing on it. And I was like, that's him? Like, what? So, dots connected. Really cool. You should check out the song, The Bird and the Snake from Wolves at the Gate. They're on their reprises.
I didn't know he's on that.
Yeah, legit song. Legit album.
Oh, yeah, that album is fire. Every song on there is awesome.
The other thing I thought was interesting was, so the album artwork, which is like iconic of For Today, is of that seraphim. It's got the wings covering the face, the wings covering the feet, and the wings to fly. It's pretty much like their logo. Like Demon Hunter has that thing. For Today has this. You see someone with this tattoo and you're like, you like For Today?
You like For Today.
Sweet. Like, but the guy that did the artwork on that, Saul Amstutz, I don't know how to say his name. He also did the cover work for Fit for a King, Slave to Nothing.
Oh.
So that's kind of cool.
Interesting. I did not know that. Dude, you did your homework. I love it.
I did.
So I'm pretty sure, like 90% sure, maybe 99% sure, David Morrison, you said, their drummer for this?
Uh-huh.
I think he did leave after this album, and I could be wrong, but he went and became a missionary, and he went maybe like South America or something, and he actually left him to become a missionary, which is pretty darn cool.
The other thing I took note of, there are 27 bass drops on Breaker. Not breakdowns. Not
bass
breakdowns.
drops.
We're talking... bass drop.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the whole bass drop craziness, you feel it, you got some good headphones on, you're in your car, and it's like shaking. I don't know why I did that, but shaking. Right? Like.
Yep.
Oh, gosh. 27, though. I would have not guessed that many. Well, and I mean, we can't even count, unless you did your homework, the number of breakdowns, too, because, like, these songs, and that's For Today's, like, signature, like, there's no tempo consistently through a song. They have so many breakdowns and bass drops. It's crazy, but that's who they are, and they did it for the first 3-4 albums consistently. That's who they knew they were, and I ate it up like crazy. So
yeah, me too.
So the first song or poem, and I'm pretty sure these poems, I literally just looked this up, pretty sure this is a poem called The Breaker by Jose Palos,
I think, yeah.
And it's kind of split up, obviously, and For Today put some music behind it, but it is Jose Palos performing his poem throughout this, which is pretty awesome. There's some parts of this poem that just, every time I listen to it, gives me chills. So the first one is The Breaker's Origin.
So before we jump into this, Tyler's not lying. Right when we jumped into this call, he's like, hey, did you know the guy that did those, spoken word parts isn't Matty Montgomery? And I was like, what? Yes, it is. Like, it sounds just like him. And I think I've just always associated that voice with him. But no, yeah, he proved me, I don't know, he showed me something new.
I think to really prove to Gary, like, I had to look up like a Facebook post by For Today.
It wasn't good enough that you found a YouTube video of the guy doing it. And I was like, yeah, but like, because I was convinced, like, sure, maybe he could have wrote it.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe Maddie performed it. But Tyler found an old, like, Facebook post
from 2010
that was like, here's the guy who wrote and performed on our album. And I was like, oh. And they linked to the literal video Tyler showed me. And I was like, okay, I'm convinced now. Okay. But yeah, Breaker's Origin. I really like the way that it starts, right, with that guitar riff. I feel like that sound that the guitar starts, like the very first thing that happens, is like the average sound of the entire album.
Yes.
So it really gives like a theme and like a feeling. As soon as you hear Breaker's Origin, you're like, this is For Today. I really like the way this guy says the words and puts pauses, and all the things he says is like disparaging stuff, you know, like fear, pain, confusion, powerless, help, or rejection, you know, helplessness. And he goes on this big list and he talks about the roots of bitterness, and it just makes you go like, oh boy, this is getting deep. Like, and all he's saying is just words, you know, like.
Yeah. And you knew it was going to be different when this album started out with this spoken word. And I think that for me was like, dang, this is going to be like next level.
They're serious about this album.
Yeah. And one thing I love about the spoken word too, with the breaker, the poem, the music, if you're listening to this, it builds right into the next song. Now on Spotify, for some reason, I don't know why, Gary might know, but when you listen to these back to back, it like doesn't go like it does if you're listening to the CD. Tell me right now. You need to
go into your preferences.
Okay.
And in the advanced settings, there's a section called like crossfade. And there might even be another one that's like allow crossplay or something like that. And it allows the songs not to split. You're doing it like right now.
I'm looking at it right now.
You're like, I have to fix this. No, I was the same way because I just got a new phone and it didn't move all my settings over. So I was listening to this and I'm like, why is there a pause? It's supposed to like go from track to track to track. Yeah. Yes. And like, yeah, so I totally feel you. Because as soon as that pause happened, I was like, excuse me, where's Devastator? Like, it starts right now.
Exactly. Now, and see, I'm having some issues lately with technology, and so Gary's been my guy. Like, recently I text Gary, I was like, dude, I'm trying to listen to Breaker, and it doesn't let me listen to more than 2 songs. It's weird. Like, I can only hear Devastator and another song. And he's like, are you, like, offline? And I looked, and, like, my data was turned off. I was literally offline.
So all you had was, like, cached songs.
Yeah. Yes, the ones that, like, I downloaded. And so that was weird. So anytime I have, like, any issues, I just feel like I'm, like, the 70-year-old grandpa and just, hey, Gary, can you fix my printer for me or whatever? And so that's kind of my life.
Set up my Wi-Fi.
That's been my my life since we started this podcast, truthfully.
You're welcome.
And so when I do fix that and have the music crossfade into itself or whatever, Breaker's origin into Devastator is amazing. In that YouTube video where the performer of the Breaker, he's like performing it, and it's just him spoken word. There's no music. He's like standing in front of an audience, and all the comments are like, at 1 minute and 20 seconds, hell, fear me. Like, that's all they could think about, you know, because that is so iconic, like, especially for people that are obviously in the scene and know For Today. The Breaker's origin into Devastator is chef's kiss.
So my dad introduced me to this type of music. Well, not this type. Christian music and stuff like that. And I've always been like, hey, check out this one, you know, and like a lot of them don't hit just because there's a lot of screaming or too much metalcore. But this song, my dad really likes. And when we started this podcast, I texted him or something and was like, hey, check out my buddy and I's podcast. Let us know what you think. And he finished it and he's like, when are you going to do Devastator from For Today?
That's awesome.
But yeah, I always have to, and every so often he'll like text me and like, what's that song with like all the bass from For Today? I'm like, Devastator.
And I think this was like the first band for me as a Christian that was in the metalcore that had these like blatantly like Christ-centered lyrics. I listened to As I Dine, listened to, you know, other bands, even like Haste the Day, I guess. But this is like in your face, hit you with the gospel.
Yeah, I saw someone's summary of the song. They said that the song is basically a declaration of victory against Satan and his kingdom of darkness. It tells of the war that all Christians face and the eventual, inevitable victory that will come for those who follow Jesus.
You look at this and you look at the lyrics and listen to the lyrics and whatever. It is a declaration. But, like, let's be real. I'm here and you're probably here, and most people were there for those bass drops. We were there for those breakdowns. Like, it is crazy. The ending, the last time he says "Hell Fear Me," just rocks your car. They think like you're listening to like trap music.
No, yeah, that final bass drop on this, like it's so long and drawn out, and it just like it. I don't know. It's amazing.
When they hit that bass drop like at a concert, gosh, I miss concerts. But when you go to like a show and they're like, you know, doing all the sound check and they hit the bass drop thing or whatever it's called, they hit it and like you can feel the hairs in your ears just like moving.
Which part are you talking about? The part where he's like, right? So the very last time he does "Hell Fear Me," it's all super high pitched, right? And he's like, super high pitched, "Hell Fear Me." But right before that, you know, like there's like that guitar build up.
This war will end. I am the one that will bring you down. And when you fall, feel me. You'll see my face on the battleground. Fear me. I am the one that will bring you
so
down.
So good. And I remember we saw these guys, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. But when they played this song, gosh, any song they played though, like rocked the walls. We went and saw them at this like podunk church right outside of Spokane. And
it used to be a church.
Used to be a church? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was like it was pretty much a concert venue for a couple of years.
But it was like, it was a church and it was small.
What was it called? It was like The Cave with a K.
The Cave, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I felt like the walls were shaking. There were more people in there than there should have been. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. And when they played, and they were the headliners, I think, it was brutal. Mm-hmm. I love it, yeah. And so this song, gosh, I just want to go listen to it right now.
Yeah, I love Devastator. It's like one of those forever songs that I'll probably listen to for the rest of my life. But yeah. So our conversation leads us to the next one, The Advocate. And I think it's basically a song to our advocate, Jesus. I love the guitars in this song. Oh, there's a ton of sweeping with, you know, chunky rhythm behind it. And it might have been memed the most because the breakdown is like, break everything in your path.
Yep.
Right. And so when you're at a concert and he says it and, you know, the mosh pit's going, you're like, I'm going to break all these people. But the song is actually about saying, Jesus, break everything in my life that's in your way from preventing your mission. Right. Like the whole, like reading it, you're like, wow, this is a very like amazing song. Basically like, you know, take your rightful place in our lives. But like you listen to it and you're like, yeah, let's fight, man. I'm ready.
Everything in your path. Take your rightful place in our lives.
No joke. You're 100% right. Like you read it or whatever, you have that little CD booklet and you're like, oh, break everything in your path. Take your rightful place in our life. Amen. But this, the equivalent to it, when you're in the pit or you're near the pit, and people are going crazy, you've got, you know, pit bosses just going nuts. It's the same thing as Disrespect Your Surroundings for A Day to Remember That song, right? Like, it's the exact same meaning. And so you've got people just throwing themselves everywhere. You got punches flying. In reality, though, it's talking, like you said, about Jesus. I mean, set my eyes on you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I love that guitar riff that, like, I don't know, climbs and then it goes down. It's like, it's just like this breakdown that's just like, I don't know. It's weird because if that was on like Portraits, I'd have been like, ugh. But I feel like it's like maybe in a different tone or I don't know. It just sounds different, but it's something that For Today has done forever.
Right, like that's vintage For Today, but I think it's mixed really well with the bass drops, the breakdowns, the perfect screaming that he does, and I think it's like it just meshes so well. And when you throw the lyrics in there, I love the Matty Montgomery type of lyrics where he's like, I think it's right after that guitar part you're talking about, and he's like, but only you can bring us back. You know how he like talks and does that like that kind of like scream talk. I don't know how to really describe it. Like,
yeah, he doesn't like some people sing scream. I feel like he like rap screams.
Yeah. It's definitely more on the rap side. I love it too, and I think like the heavy, filthy breakdowns in this song, especially like at the end, is a perfect like song after Devastator. It keeps that energy super high, and then it just like falls back down back into the spoken word.
So this one, The Breakers Valley, is very like, it's like a testimonial, like very vulnerable, and like your first time listening to it, it like gives you goosebumps, and you're like, oh wow, like these are amazingly powerful words.
Yeah,
it's very gripping, right?
Yeah,
like it gets your attention. It's like a testimony, talking about sins that have happened to him as a kid, and like, you know, it gives you goosebumps, and you're like, you know, it's a very emotional song, and you have this reaction that's like, you know, wow, I'm going through these breakdowns and like getting so pumped, and then they throw this at you, and it's like, well, now I just want to sit down and like have empathy.
Yeah, it's heavy, and it's called The Breakers Valley because this is the
low point.
The low point, right? And there's no hope here. We're talking about For Today, who's, you know, every song is about Christ, and so you know it's going to change. Then it leads into Seraphim, which was one of their singles off this, right?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure this was a single that came off of it, and they have a music video for it and all that. This is a fun song.
So Seraphim, it means burning one. And it's like, you know, it's from like, it's in the Old Testament when they're mentioned. Isaiah has a dream or a vision of these seraphims, which are these 6-winged creatures that are human-like, but are described as having 3 pairs of wings. One that covers their faces, which is a sign of humility. The second set that covers their feet, which is a sign of respect. And the third one they use to fly. And that's where the For Today logo comes from. So
Right.
Great song. I love the chunky guitars, the kind of the way the guitars like and drums go together. You know, when he's like, "Take your flame, ignite the world," that like group shouting that they do.
I wrote a few things down, and the first one was Chuggy McChugster, because I totally agree. The chugginess of like the guitars, it isn't fully like what For Today has always done. I mean, they do it, but I absolutely love it, and it goes really well with the vocals. And then the next thing I wrote was like gang vocals galore, because they are singing in this song, which doesn't happen a ton. I mean,
right.
But they're singing together. Go take your flame, right? And I do think this song is about us, like rising up and not being cowardly with our faith, not looking the other way when we shouldn't be, but proudly declaring the gospel because we're not ashamed, right? And then therefore going and lighting fires for other people. But this song goes hard.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about the Chuggy McChuggerton. You know, some people really dig the horse galloping type of music.
Oh, yeah.
And that's totally what that is.
Burning ones arise.
I love it, and I do love that part. I mean, obviously, that vocal part where he says "Bernie one's eyes," like that's edited, right? And I don't remember like what he did when we saw him live.
I'm sure he just held the note or something.
Did he just hold it?
Shake the microphone in front of his face? Or I know we did that.
We did the car as we were like repeating it. But that part's fun. It's a fun song. It's a great song, and it's a great message too.
Track 6, Arm the Masses.
Arm the Masses.
Featuring the dude from Stray from the Path.
Yes. And his part, it's the end of the song, and I always talk about the end of the song at the beginning. He does. But his part at the end is awesome. So cool. Like my favorite part of the song is the ending, how he just like gets into it.
Are you the one?
That's it. Yeah, and he does that kind of like, you know, his vocals. If you've listened to Stray for the Path, like it definitely has that, and I just love that with For Today's music behind him. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it really set the song apart.
Yes.
I think without him, the song may have just been boring. I mean, it's just another one of their songs, and it's like, oh yeah, Arm the Masses. It's one of the songs on that album. But when, you know, with him in there, it really brought the song up a whole level of quality and uniqueness. And I was very surprised because my understanding is they are not a Christian band, like, at all. So I was so surprised to know that he was on this album. It's kind of like when Emir's lead singer was on Sleeping Giant.
Oh yeah,
and it's like wait, what? Wait, what's happening? Sleeping Giant's not Christian anymore? You know, like, and like people are like asking all kinds of questions and like, did that guy get saved? Like all this stuff. I'm like, man,
eyes wide open.
Yeah, eyes wide open.
Yeah. I pray with my. Anyways, okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thought I had, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with a non-Christian. This is a whole conversation I don't want to go into.
No, but I think what's really cool, and I think this kind of speaks to who they were, and a lot of people feel like they weren't like this. They were still respected in the genre, right? Because they were great musicians. They put on a great show.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people
they're
that
awesome
are like,
dudes.
A lot of non-Christians are like, yeah, man, For Today is awesome.
We saw them with Devil Wears Prada and Whitechapel. Like, Whitechapel's not Christian, but like,
and
you know, they were respected. And there were other guest vocalists that are on their other albums too that aren't Christian. So I think it just goes to show you that like they're respected outside of it. Obviously, it's pretty cool. I think that Stray from the Path want to do this, and he makes the song awesome.
Yeah, so amazing.
Yeah, I do love Maddie's like you're talking previously about his like high scream. And he gets that like super high pitch where he says like "godless generation turn around." Like I have no idea. Yeah, that part, and it's like for a while, like when I first heard it, I had no idea what he was saying because when he gets up there and like has that scream, it's like, dang, that is a big range from where he usually screams. But I love that part. Like that part is just brutal. I love this song still to this day. This is a forever song for me too. And I think mostly because of the
way he does it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The way it ends is just like so brutal. We're gonna play it. You're gonna hear it. You might not even hear me say this part, but the way he does it, like, so he repeats himself, right? And he screams high pitch and fast.
Yeah.
And the way he ends it, like he says, like, you know, are you the one? And then he says the whole like verses again, and then he says like, are you the one? And you can tell he like grits his teeth. Oh, and like he like says it so angry, and he's like, are you? You know, it's just
that doing that right there. Just me thinking about that. That's goosebumps, man. That gives me goosebumps. Oh, that,
and it ends just like that.
Are you the one who will stand up to a corrupt world system? Are you the one who will stand and fight them with the dollars against them? Are you the one who will stand up to a corrupt world system? Are you the one who will stand and fight them with the dollars against
Yeah, I am. I'm the one.
Pretty sure I'm the one. What are we doing?
Yeah.
No, yeah, I love. Oh gosh, that. There's times where like, and I think you were talking about when Amir came on Sleeping Giant, and that's another great example of a song that is made even better from the guest vocalist.
Yeah.
Like, there's some songs that like guest vocalist is on there, you're like, okay, that's fine. I prefer when Maddie does it, but like with this song, like the addition of Stray from the Path, like, is awesome. With Eyes Wide Open, Sleeping Giant, when Amir's lead singer's on there, awesome.
Yep.
Anything where Maddie Mullins is on there, awesome.
Yeah, I love Maddie Mullins. And you know, anything where Ryan Clark is a guest vocalist, I love it.
Pretty cool, yeah.
Like, I kind of like it better than his like solo stuff, like not solo, but than Demon Hunter. Like that when he did that Impending Doom song.
Oh yeah,
love it. And like he even did like a rap song where he's on it. And
there's another great guest vocalist, Brooks. When he's on stuff, it's pretty awesome too.
Yeah. So you want to move to track 7, White Flag?
Oh, I love White Flag. Let's talk about it.
I wrote some notes. Basically, the song is about surrendering his sin. I think it's a great, heavy worship song. Right? Like, I feel like if done differently and with 4 chords, it could be a worship song.
Yes.
My favorite part of this song that just, whenever I hear it or even think about it, like, I know this song. And when he says, like, you fight for me when I can't fight for myself.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah, that part's awesome.
Anytime I'm reading the Bible and it's like, you know, you fight for me or anything like that, I'm like, oh yes, this song. You know, like it's in my head and I'm like sitting back like somewhere else, listening to that song in my head, you know.
I give it all to you. Finally I surrender. All I am, I know it all. You fight for me when I can't fight for myself. This battle is not mine, but the battle belongs to the Lord. This battle is not mine, but the battle belongs to the Lord.
Yeah, that part is awesome. This song and the lyrics, like, I love Devastator, I love other stuff, but I think this song and the lyrics to White Flag mean the most to me, even to this day, like you're talking about. Just surrendering everything you have to God, right? And that's like what we continually try to do. I do really like just the finally I surrender singing part. Like, there's times where I don't really love, there's times where I don't love the group shout, you know, in some music and some of their stuff, but for this, I really thought it was perfect.
Yeah, it really felt kind of like I don't know, that's kind of like the part where I mentioned it's like a church, like it could be a worship song, because I feel like that's the part where the worship team is like, you know, raise your hands up, finally I surrender, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, I totally hear that.
It's the Chris Tomlin chorus that goes on repeated. Yep. Yes. Another lyric I wrote down that I think is my favorite in the entire album. It might be my favorite For Today lyric in general.
Oh boy.
Under the blood I rise, redeemed I stand, carried back from hell by your nail-scarred hands. I thought that was pretty cool and awesome. Like,
yeah, I think that's like so the song's called White Flag, right? Surrendering.
Yeah.
And basically he starts off talking about how like he's sinful and he needs a savior. And then halfway through there's like this change of pace with the whole like you fight for me when I can't fight for myself. And then it ends with like this like redemption, like you said, you know, and you know, it ends with like, so now I bow to you to show you that you're my everything. So it started off with like, you know, I'm surrendering, and then to this like, Jesus is my everything. And then with like what you said, right? It's like the transition of the surrender, which is practically the middle of the album. So,
and we're getting closer to the next spoken word. But before we get there, there's this part, and I remember. So I still don't know because I see it all over, and I don't have my booklet anymore somewhere. Probably my box of memories. The lyric in White Flag. I'm gonna pull it up. It says, it's towards the end in the third like stanza. It says, "I am no slave to my flesh. That man has died." That's what these lyrics say. It says that man has died. And it's kind of like a response, like that man has died. You know that part that I'm talking about. Anyways, I always thought, and this is like when I first became a Christian.
Okay.
Like I first became a Christian. I thought it said, like it goes into that, and I thought it said half man, half God, for some weird reason. I kid you not. I was like, half man, half God, or whatever. And like I just keep singing that. I'm like, yeah, what's up? You know, not knowing that like that's completely non-biblical. That's not biblical at all, right? And Bobby, we're in the car. Our friend Bobby from college. We're in the car playing this song, and I said it. I was like, half man, half God. And he's like, what? I was like, yeah, that's what it says, doesn't it? He's like, no way. And if it does, that is wrong. And I was like, oh, okay. Then I went and I looked it up.
Make
and
me
I
feel
kept,
bad.
I kept listening. I was like, oh, yeah, that doesn't make sense. And I guess he is fully God and fully man. So not half and half. That wouldn't make sense.
Plus, it's about himself. Matty Montgomery saying that man has died, his sinful self, right?
100% it is. But I was just like, half man, half God. Like he was talking about Jesus or something.
Okay, yeah.
And I wasn't, and I got corrected, and I was like, oh, wow, maybe I should listen and not just go spouting off heretical thoughts.
That's a good story.
Give Bobby a little check mark for that, because he helped me out.
I'm going to bring this up to him and be like, hey, on this episode, we brought you up.
Yeah, but this song is awesome. White Flag is one of my favorites. It ends on this kind of this note of surrendering to God, giving up yourself, and it leads so perfectly, so well into this next spoken word, the Breakers encounter.
The drums are going, and it's like, I think it's the same kind of drums that they end the last Breakers part, but that like dun 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 cha.
Yeah,
you know, I'm sure it has a name for this
toms,
but yeah, and you know the guitar's just like da, 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 da. And basically this song is him looking back on the day that Jesus died on the cross, and it's like talking about seeing the bloody man with the broken face on a cross, and he's soaked in the wrath of God. It's kind of like they watched Mel Gibson's movie Passion of the Christ and kind of described, you know, what he looked like up there.
Yeah. Going through this entire poem that we're hearing in between these awesome, filthy breakdowns, bass drops, amazing metalcore. Like, this poem is sharing a testimony, right? Mm-hmm. It's showing, like, this person going through their life and then realizing, like, at this moment that God is there. And White Flag, the song before this, is a great precursor to this poem, because he's realizing that this is the person that died for me and made him whole again, which is pretty cool, because the previous poem was brutal.
So the next song, Phoenix. Phoenixes are known for when they die, they're reborn, you know. Yeah, magic.
Rising from the ashes.
Yeah, so that kind of builds into this, right? So he's talking about how he's like, he freed him and made him feel whole, right?
Yeah.
And then boom, Phoenix.
Now is the dawn. Now is the time for those who have died to rise and lift the sound of our voices high. Kingdom come. Kingdom come.
And I remember the first time I heard this, I was like, that sounds just like the guy from Close Your Eyes. And I had to look at the back of the CD case and like, yep, there he is, Shane Raymond. And since we brought up Shane, we have to bring up an error on our part for our Close Your Eyes episode.
For sure.
There's a song called The Body. And I said, there's a part that's like For Today-esque. It sounds just like Matty Montgomery. I was like, he did such a great job. Like the way he screams right here. And some guy's like, I don't remember his name.
I forget
he
too.
often talks to us, but yeah, he's like, no, that is Maddie, and I'm like, no, it's not. Crack my knuckles. Time to go Google, and like I find like the Wikipedia page for the album, and it literally says it right there, and I'm like, yeah, but anyone can edit Wikipedia. So I like did more deep diving, and long story short, I was wrong.
But we got actual confirmation, Gary. The bassist
That's true.
/ heavy vocals from Close Your Eyes was like, yes, Maddie was on the body. The bassist from Close Your Eyes was like, I did the rest of the heavy vocals for that album. And so it was confirmed, and that's pretty cool.
It's not just internet confirmed, it's a member of the band, Close Your Eyes, told us that that guy was right.
Which is awesome. And you're right. His voice, Shane's voice in Phoenix is unmistakable. Like, you hear it and you're like, oh, that is Close Your Eyes.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how he's in there. Maybe the way it was recorded or whatever, but he's like put in as like a group shout.
Yeah.
Because there's other voices there besides his. But you hear him because he's the high one, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His singing on this is super high.
Yeah.
Like, if you try to sing along with him, it's hard to get there.
Oh, I try.
I try. It's a great song, and I like it partly because I'm like, oh, Shane Raymond, yes.
Yeah. So my favorite part of this song is when he just repeats, "Death is glory, death is glory."
Death is glory. Death is glory. Death is glory. I will rise from the ashes of my own death to abundant life under the clouds.
The screams after that part that are so high, I'm like, no way is that Maddie. I'm like, that's got to be Shane. But I'm pretty sure it's Maddie.
Yeah,
like, it's so
think
high.
it is too. Yeah, but he has a great range, especially in the song. It is interesting to see. This goes obviously with the verse, like, to die is gain. I think it's Philippians something. It's like one of the most famous verses. I can't even like think of it right now. It's weird to like read these lyrics, right? And I don't know.
As a non-Christian, what you're like, this is
exactly. Like, and I know what he's trying to say. Like, he's just saying, like, you know, to live is great, right? And do all this stuff, but like to die for a cause, like for something like Christ, to be a martyr when, you know, things are against you and you have persecution, like that is glory. But if you're just reading this as a non-Christian, it's like, what the heck did I get myself into? I don't know. And I went back and looked at these lyrics, and I'm like, yikes.
Yikes, huh?
I don't know. No, like, I like it, but I just don't really... I don't know.
What I like about the Death is Glory thing is that, you know, horse galloping sound. Yeah. Because, you know, that's how he's like, death is glory. But here, let me look up the lyrics real quick. Because he builds into that before he says it, and you don't understand him.
For the ones that say, the ones that died to say, this is the price you pay, step up. There is no glory without death, step up. Who will answer the call? Death is glory. And I think part of it, like reading through it, like I'm not taking this just topical, and I'm not. Is it talking necessarily about dying, like going and being part of a cult and dying? No, it's not, right?
It says, to those who say, this is the price you pay, right? It's like the Flyleaf song with, you know, with your name, Cassie.
Yeah.
Do you believe in God written on a bullet? Mm-hmm. And those people that said yes from that shooting that I can't remember, I feel really bad about. Whatever.
Columbine?
You know, they went Columbine. You know, and they shot kids that said, yes, I believe in God.
Right.
And that's kind of what this song is that, you know, this is the price you pay. Will you step up? And then he goes into death is glory. I mean, I understand, like, you know, as a non-Christian looking in and being like, whoa, what's he saying? Like, are they drinking the Kool-Aid? You know? But, you know, on the other side, the curious, maybe the agnostics might be like, what is this about? And even if that causes them to, like, dig deeper and, like, what are they talking about here? Like...
And like, I do love the lyric where he says, I will rise from the ashes of my own death to abundant life under the cross.
That's the part he screams super high pitched that I'm like,
Yes.
who is that?
And that part is awesome.
Yeah,
I will
love it.
not be turned back. And so I think that part's pretty cool. And yes, I mean, we read these lyrics and obviously they're true. Like, death is glory and this life sometimes really sucks. And for Christians, especially in places outside the United States, life isn't like we have it here, right?
Yeah,
we think
for sure.
sometimes, just being looked at differently because of our faith, like culture-wise. Oh, you don't do that. Oh, because you're a Christian,
Yeah.
or whatever.
We voted one way, or we posted something on Facebook one way.
Right.
Because we're Christians.
We say that's persecution when it
Oh yeah,
it could be by definition, but compared to what other people are going through in like North Korea or China or all these other countries,
Yep.
just for their faith. And you brought up an awesome example. Not awesome. That's a terrible word to use.
A good example.
A good example of Columbine, where people were asked, "Do you believe in God?" And if they said yes, they were killed. It's terrifying to think about, to be put in that situation.
Yeah.
And I think we've had this conversation before. I actually know we have. To actually die for your faith. Obviously, like right now, I want to say absolutely, I would for sure.
For sure. No.
You put
Yeah, I would not. Yeah, I'd say yeah.
you put a gun to my head, heck yes. But that is scary to think about.
No, yeah, I don't. I believe I am not that. I don't know, brave or courageous, or. I think that with a gun to my head, I would say no.
Dang, I don't know. Like
I just don't.
this.
I always think pessimistically. Like no.
And then you like pull out the fingers crossed from your back. Psych.
It wasn't real. No, and then the hard part is these Christians that have said no to these situations, they like live the rest of their life living when other brothers and sisters in Christ died for their faith. And it's like, man, how do you live like that? Like, do you people just lose their faith? And I know there's like books written, some survivors of Columbine that said no. They've written books and that they've talked about their experiences and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, not a fun thing to think about.
Right, and Columbine wasn't just an attack on Christians. Like they came and they shot up a bunch of people, but
Yeah,
there
it was,
were people
it was a
that,
school shooting, and there was annoying Christians that they knew, quote unquote, and they would go and ask them, like, if you say yes, I'm going to shoot you, knowing they would say yes.
That's so tough, and I think like that idea is crazy. But like you look at, now we're talking Bible, which is interesting. We can cut all this out, but Peter, like, denied Jesus 3 times, right? As he's being carrying the cross,
And he
crucified.
probably would have been, he would have been put on a cross too if he said yes.
Yeah, but then fast forward, and Peter does end up on a cross, right? He eventually dies, and he's so bold as he dies. He's like, "Don't crucify me right side up." Supposedly, that's what people say. "Don't crucify me right side up. Crucify me upside down, because I'm not worthy to die like Jesus." It's like, man, that guy. So maybe people, like, even in that situation, you live your life, and God gives you boldness as you get older, and at some point, I don't know. It's just crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But Maddie and For Today writing these lyrics, they're tough for a Christian to fully digest, but it's exactly how we should be looking at it.
So back to the song. He kind of ends it with like I think Shane sings it too, where they say, "Now is the time for those who have died to rise and lift the sound of our voices high." And Shane gets really, really high with it, but the way it like ends with like this choppy "Kingdom Come," like it's great stuff. But I mean, even that part, they're talking, now's the time for those who have died for Christ to rise, lift this, worship God. It's like, I don't know, it's this kind of imagery of these phoenixes who have died quite literally, and they're reborn in Christ quite literally. Like, not as, it's not the "I'm now a Christian" rebirth. It's the "I'm dead and Christ is going to make me perfectly complete," that kind of.
But that part is cool. When he screams "Kingdom Come," Shane screams that at the end. That's a pretty cool part. And it's choppy, like you said. And it's definitely sung super high, but it's an awesome anthem, which is pretty cool.
So track 10, Psalm of the Sun. Pretty cool.
I wrote down my first thing on this song was filthy, filthy, filthy breakdown. The part where Maddie says, I was born to die, and it just hits so hard. Oh my gosh, it's a face melter. It's filthy, it's crazy.
I was born to die, that the sons may live.
I don't think they performed this song ever when we saw them, but it's a song that gets pretty good rotation in my playlist because of how heavy this song is.
Yeah. I like that. So the song is said from the point of view of Jesus.
Yes, yeah.
And it's like all of his like well-known quotes from the Bible. You know, no one takes my life, but I lay it down willingly. I was born to die that the sons may live. Let the nation see, you know. Anyway, it's great. You know, I think it even starts off with like crucify me.
It does,
you know, like it's very, it's a cool song. And if you don't know that it's from the point of Jesus, I don't know how you don't know that, but it's like, it seems really weird that he's like saying all this stuff about himself, you know?
Absolutely great. The lyrics, truthfully, like reading them as Christians, it's goosebump worthy when he says things like that and thinking about the point of view of Jesus. I'm everlasting from the grave. I have come in glory. I'm everlasting. When the world burns, no, I'll be standing.
Yeah. Ooh.
Pretty cool. And there are some awesome, wide variety of vocal range for Maddie in this song, and I absolutely dig it.
Yeah, there's a lot of like I don't know, they're not breakdowns, just kind of like, you know, chunky riffs and rhythms that it's just like, and this part the guitar is gonna be like dun 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 dun, and then the next part is just like dun 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 dun, and it's just like literally like every maybe 12 seconds it's like another song.
Yeah.
And Maddie's just still going on. Now he's screaming a different way.
Dude, you nailed that guitar. You did. No, you nailed it.
It's ingrained in my memory, dude.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, moving on to the next track. King. This is signature for today guitars in the beginning. I do like the drum intro. It kind of feels like some of the breakers that we've been listening to, the spoken word. But it just has that for today guitar going at it. Oh. So awesome. And I feel like this song is kind of more like hardcore. They have some hardcore aspects to them.
Well, it's because their guest vocalist on this song is very hardcore.
Yeah, who is the guest vocalist for this one?
J. Pepito. Reign Supreme.
Reign Supreme, that's what it was.
My first time hearing this, I didn't know that it was a different singer. But, you know, once you know who Maddie is and what he sounds like, you can tell when he comes in. But, yeah, and he has more of a, I don't know, aggressive scream?
Yes.
More throaty. So there's a part right before he comes in, at the very beginning-ish of the song, where the instrument's cut out and all you hear is a bass.
Oh, yeah.
It's so crazy that it's just bass. It's just like blah, blah, blah.
That's not Maddie Montgomery that does that? At the beginning where it's like, this is my generation.
This is my generation, and I will not watch it die. You are the only hope.
Oh, yeah. So I love that part. I love how, like you said, it's like the bass.
It's kind of like a dog bark, the way he screams.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think the vocals on this song is like vocally the most aggressive. And the music's just so fast, you know, and the hi-hats, the ding, 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 ding.
You have the hardcore music, but then at the end, bass drop, long live the king.
That's
like
so
that
awesome.
Part's
yeah.
So awesome. After some cool guitar work, bass drop comes in, and you just feel it, and it's just long live the king, and Maddie just goes hard on that.
Yep. Yeah, like right before that drop, there's a part where it's super high. It's probably my favorite part of the song, where he says, "So I rise to see your reign manifested in majesty, take your place enthroned above all." And it's just so high pitch.
But I absolutely love that this song's a little bit different than the rest of the songs. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a little more. I think it's less metalcore and more hardcore.
Yeah.
Double bass pedals. I mean,
it's eyes of fire, the mountains tremble at your voice, banger breakdown. Oh, I love that part so much of the song.
And it's like both of them screaming that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, there's definitely more than just Maddie there. But this is like the last song on the album, really.
The last For Today song.
The last like For Today song. This ends moving into the last part of Breaker Poem, Breaker's commission. So we had like the Breaker's origin, we had the Breaker's Valley, Breaker's encounter, and now the Breaker's commission. And this jam is huge. Like, I love this. Continues to give me goosebumps when I listen to it.
Yep. I love the way it is a mirror of the first, right? Instead of talking about fear, here they say life, love, forgiveness, acceptance. It starts off with this positive list of things, and then kind of like this encouraging, positive words of courage and strength and fighting for Christ. And, it leads into this awesome, orchestrated worship song. But so good, so good, so good.
Oh, the way that it's said, you're just like, yeah, let's get it, And he says it so, it's just done really well. And this is like the peak of obviously the Breaker, right? And everything is coming into view, and I might be jumping the gun, but when the poet says, mending any torn soul, healing any broken bone, he is here.
He was there. He is peace. He is faithful.
But we did see these guys live together a couple times, and we saw them for Breaker.
Yep. Although it wasn't for, that's the songs they played.
Yeah.
Because it was the Devil Wears Prada.
Dead Throne.
Dead Throne. Yep.
Yeah. It was the Dead Throne tour. And so we went, we picked up your brother.
Yeah, my brother was staying with me.
No,
so he was going to WSU.
No, he wasn't. We already had this conversation, Gary. We picked him up at my parents' house in Kennewick.
No, you're totally wrong. Why would we go to Kennewick, dude?
Oh, stop. Okay, now I forget. I was thinking about Haste the Day.
Everybody take note. I'm sure we're gonna edit this out, but Tyler was wrong again. Okay. No, so it was my brother's birthday, the day of the concert. He came up for like winter break. And he stayed with me and my wife. This was like 2011. So we were at the other married dorms, but not yours.
Yeah.
I think he stayed the night that night before the concert, and then we drove up that day, and I think we picked up one of my friends, Mannon, at Central.
Yep.
And we drove your tiny little blue Suzuki Arrow,
the blueberry
over
baby.
The snow, and I think you messaged him on Twitter or Facebook, and you're like, we're driving from Spokane, we'll be there,
Oh, and it was awesome. It was the Showbox South Downtown Soto,
Seattle,
and in Seattle, and it's an awesome venue. It's huge, kind of like a warehouse venue, and I feel like for that, like we were obviously going to see Devil Wears Prada too, because Devil Wears Prada was awesome during that time, and I was really into Dead Throne. But we were going really for For Today, I felt like, because we were into them a ton.
Yeah.
Right? And so I remember, did they kind of like the first opening band, maybe? I know they went before Whitechapel, and then Whitechapel was before Devil Wears Prada.
Yep. It was Born of Osiris was first.
Born of Osiris, that's what
Because I think
it was.
we showed up and they were like halfway through because we were like, we didn't think the pass would be that bad with snow.
Yeah. And it was pretty darn bad.
It was bad.
And after we're driving...
We'll just bounce on the snowbanks until we make it there. Like,
and I say Blueberry as in my Suzuki Aereo. Like, it is a Blueberry. It was a very, very small car, but all-wheel drive, baby. And we made it there. Mm-hmm. One thing that I will say that I just love, For Today live, awesome. Like, I felt like they do a great job musically, vocally. Yep. But, like, Maddie preaches. In between songs, he's preaching, and I remember thinking this and then talking to Gary afterwards, and I was like, dude, he was preaching, and he was like, I love coming to Seattle and seeing you guys because I know that you guys are going to change the world. You guys are going to go set this world on fire. I don't have to say anything. And I felt like he was talking to me. And I was like, yes, sir, Maddie. Yes, sir, Maddie. Right? I'm just like thinking he's talking directly to me. Then afterwards, I said that to Gary, and you were like, no, he was like talking to me is what I felt like.
Yeah, it wasn't you, it was me.
Yeah.
So I remember Maddie doing his little sermon a little differently than what you said.
What do you remember?
I remember. So yeah, he did a sermon, and like he's like, I think he told people like take a seat. He's gonna be a minute or something, and so people started going back to the bar or something, and we were like moving up. But he said basically it's not gonna be a long sermon like he usually does because he felt there was already a lot of people in the building that were doing God's work, and that they would be the ones that would change Seattle and Washington. To basically make an impact on the faith. And that's when I was like, dude, I feel like I'm doing that at Eastern, I don't know. He did great at speaking into people's lives, and like he has a presence when he spoke, and it definitely got your attention. And maybe some people listen to that and they're like, not me,
bogus,
or they're like, maybe he says it in every city he goes to.
He just had that stage presence to really just bring you in. And when he starts preaching, like people would just like leave, because the music was over or whatever. Yeah. But a lot of people stayed and like listened to him. And I absolutely think Matty Montgomery's an awesome dude. And even if some things like I don't agree with or people don't agree with theologically, like that dude is passionate.
For sure. He's done more for the kingdom of God than anyone I know.
Yeah.
Like tons of people. Even Ryan says that he
my buddy
told him.
I was texting my buddy Ryan, and hopefully we'll have him on at some point. Awesome dude. I was texting him, and he said that he went and saw For Today, and went and talked to Maddie at like the merch booth or whatever, and said to him like, hey Maddie, like you're the reason I'm a Christian. You're the reason that I believe in Jesus. And Maddie was like, no, I'm not. That's God that made that happen. And so like he just has that passion, and he's not ashamed. I think that's what I admire most about bands like For Today. When they're in front of people, they're not ashamed to say who they are and what they believe.
Yeah, it's really cool when bands do that as a, it's like their purpose as a band, is to be on a mission, and rather than like, oh yeah, we're Christians in a band, and then, half the people hear they're a Christian band and they go like, no, they're not. Look, they're singing these songs, they're doing this, and it's like, well, the purpose isn't a mission statement. And I feel like For Today was like, no, that is the purpose of For Today is to spread the word. I think For Today needs to get back together and do like a 15-year, in 2025.
Yeah.
There needs to be a 15-year tour of Breaker.
It'd be awesome.
I would love that.
Thank you for listening.